I normally say schedule a free tour with HelmBot. Go talk to somebody about it virtually, online. You know what? Forget about that. Just see them in person at the Float Conference. You can meet the founders of HelmBot, Graham and Ashcon, and also all the people behind the scenes, or at least several of them, will be there to talk to directly. You can see their smiling faces, and they can answer any questions for you in person. And you can see that you're supporting a really good group of people, too, when you're taking care of yourself with HelmBot. Cannot recommend these guys enough. Helmbot.com. Check them out, and we'll see you at the Float Conference. Let's start the show. Welcome back to another episode of Art of the Float, where float centers thrive. My name is Dylan. I own the Float Shop in Portland, Oregon with my lovely wife, Sandra. And we have an incredible manager at the Float Shop. And she's been with us for several years and has done a lot of things about both for like inclusiveness, being in Portland, for our customers and also for our employees, as well as improving our business. She's absolutely amazing on top of it. We love our manager.
And this is Gloria Morris with Float 60, and I've had a director for quite some time, Lisa Martin, and I also have managers at each location, but I just lost a manager today. We're going to miss you, Gabrielle.
This is Drew from New Hampshire Float in New Hampshire, and I am the manager and the general manager and the assistant manager and the assistant to the manager.
What was that hiring process like? Rough?
Yeah. It was an incredible interview, let me tell you.
I hear he's a little on the rocks there. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to this. I'm definitely looking forward to this episode because I have been thinking about taking that step and putting a little more effort into trying to find somebody. I feel like I'm getting better with my current employees and trusting, and I'm looking forward to tonight to learn a little bit more myself.
Drew, I'm so happy to hear that. Gloria, can I ask? I don't even know if I can. I know, like, hot microphone and everything, but why is your last manager moving on?
Well, it's the first question that I asked, but, I always encourage everyone, from whether they're managers or not, to make sure that they are thinking about their next move and, thinking about what scratches their itch. So this particular one, her name's Gabrielle. She's just fantastic. She was at the Float Conference a couple of years ago. I'm not sure if you remember her, but she's one of those managers that from the very beginning I thought, wow, she is just amazing. And I know she needs a place where she can grow and grow and grow. And, within our small company, it's different than a corporation where they have multiple tracks of leadership and whatnot. And she just really needed to be in a place where she could flourish. And so I'm not surprised at all. Of course, I'm sad, but I'm so happy for her too, because she was just fantastic. So, I think in this industry, we have to remember that a lot of times we're a stepping stone for people, especially young people who are starting out in their career, and she was definitely no exception to that. But yeah, she's going to a big corporation.
All right.
Can I jump in and say that
Sure.
Also there's nothing wrong with being a stepping stone, right? There's an incredible opportunity with the types of people that a float center might attract, and the customer service that goes along with it, I think, is an incredible learning curve where
For sure.
you learn real quick how to interact with people. If you don't know, you'll have to get a crash course in that, right?
Absolutely, and she did a fantastic job. So yes, tonight was her last day. In fact, we just got back from dinner together, and one of the celebrity chefs in Chicago just happened to be working at her restaurant. So it was almost like she came to our table to say goodbye to Gabrielle. So it was like a celebration. It was awesome. Awesome. We went to this place called Girl and the Goat, and I just couldn't be happier to, share that with her before she left. But yes, so I'm on the search for, we could talk about this a little bit later, but I'm on the search for a whole different type of management layer that I've never hired before. But she will be replaced just at the local studio. She managed our Chicago studio.
And so how many managers do you have currently? Do you have one per location?
I have one per location in Illinois, and then I have one that spreads over the 2 locations in Indiana.
Okay.
But eventually we're going to have to hire one more.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to talk about what you have going forward, but I also want to, I also want to back things up a little bit here and ask about how you decide when you need a manager. I think for you, that's going to be a little bit different than me and for Drew. And then I would love to then dive into a little bit about how you've found your current managers. But maybe you could tell our audience why you thought it would be important to have a manager.
Well, yeah, for those who have listened to me before, I'm kind of an exception because I've always worked a full-time career in addition to having Float 60. So I've, from the very beginning, had a management team in place that wasn't me. I've never been a manager of the studio. We're going on 7 years of being open, and I've never really worked shifts in the studio just because I've always had a full-time role. And my job in the Float 60 corporate role, I hate to use that word corporate because it sounds so formal, but I manage more of the overall back-end administration. And so I've always needed that person who's in the studio working the hours. Plus, my studios are a little bit spread out. I mean, we're all in the Chicago area, but I have 2 states that I'm covering. So I really need to have this local presence from a management perspective. So it's always been that way. There's really never been a time where I didn't have a manager, but as we've grown, I've needed to put strategic resources in place, and we've been very lucky to have good people in those roles.
Nice. All right.
Can I jump in real quick? I don't know if this is an easy answer,
Sure,
but is there a commonality with all of these? You say you've found good people. How do you find good people? Are there common traits that they all have that you look for to find these people? Because you have always done this better than anyone I know, and I stink at it. So what are some tips, if you have any? If that's an easy answer.
Gosh, well, a lot of our managers have actually been working in the studio and kind of shown leadership qualities, and then they've gradually taken on more responsibility. But it's I don't remember ever, with the exception of one time, hiring for a manager specifically. It's always been kind of an organic process. In fact, with Gabrielle leaving, we have somebody else who has a lot of experience working at various float centers, and he is going to be stepping into this role when she moves on. But for example, when I first opened Float 60 Chicago, the very beginning was set up on, I think I've told the story, set up on kind of a blind date with Lisa Martin. And for those of you that met Lisa, she was the one that did the Float Olympics at the Float Conference. And she's been with me since the beginning of time. She's kind of stepped back a little bit, so she does more of our training. So anytime we have a new hire, she steps in and helps with training. But she used to be the director of operations for what would be multiple locations, but she started in Chicago. So it was a blind date. It was a referral. I think, one thing that I try to do is leverage my network and just put the feelers out. I'm about to do that again. In fact, on this podcast, maybe somebody will hear it and think, oh, I know somebody that would be good at that role that I'm going to need in the future. But I say leverage your network first. Go to people who know you, go to people who understand what you're doing, and ask for referrals, especially for that layer.
I mean, we used probably, Indeed.com. We didn't cull from within our business, so we were hiring people who had management experience. And this is true for hiring of anybody, but those first impressions are huge. Like that's the first person your employees are going to see, customers are going to see. Like those vibes, I feel like are golden and really important to listen to. If you have any of those yellow flags at a first, I don't know. I wouldn't keep the conversation going for much longer. But another thing I think is knowing your own personal strengths and weaknesses. What do you bring to the business that makes it so strong? Obviously, your personality is a huge part of it, Drew. Like the way that people gravitate towards you, that you're warm and friendly, and you're just a blast to be around. And so that's a huge component of why somebody wants to go in. Hard to replace that, right? Like, and again, you're the business owner, so that's going to be difficult. But then knowing your weaknesses as well. Are you super organized? Do you love spreadsheets? Do you that kind of thing? So me either. And so being able to go, okay, I am not good at this, or maybe it's communication skills, or whatever it is for whomever is doing the interviewing. What am I unsuccessful at that this person could come in and be successful at, where I'm floundering, or maybe not floundering, but would just be successful. And then I guess kind of knowing the balance of like, well, what's more important? Is it somebody who's able to do the back end stuff? Is it somebody who's great at talking with employees? Or is it somebody who's great at talking with customers? And maybe it's not the customer facing personality that you need going in there. So those are just some of the things that we were thinking about with our manager. For us, it was extremely important that we had somebody who was very good, was the word proponent, like somebody who would listen to and speak up for our employees and make sure that inside this building, these employees are heard and not just heard, but we will take action based on what they're saying.
Yeah, leading the team. So, yeah. I guess it really depends on where you are in your growth too. Like if you're a single location, that's a different dynamic than something that I'm looking for. Sure. So I don't know if I talked about this in the pod. I feel like it's been a while, but I actually am at that crossroads now where I know that from a bandwidth perspective, I can't do much more than what I'm doing. And I do want to grow in certain ways, but not necessarily by like multiplying more locations. So I actually invested in a business consultant who's been working with me since about January, and we're looking at everything together. And that's, looking at sales, looking at operation, looking at margins, looking at, overall like economies of scale across the 4 locations. How can we do better? And, he definitely has challenged me and, asked me tough questions and basically, said that it's probably the right time for Gloria to invest in somebody that can actually take ownership of the P&Ls at each location holistically. So almost hiring, going from originally you had this director of operations, but now this role will be more of a kind of like a regional manager, just as you would think about in the context of like somebody managing multiple fitness locations or multiple salons or multiple spas. I'm looking for like that action figure. That's so scary to me.
Yeah. So it's funny. I think a lot of people like Drew, for example, would be like, who's going to replace me? I mean, he wouldn't say it exactly like that, but as the owner, we've talked about this so many times, like you have a particular energy with your space and you put in the effort and the connection with employees. And so hiring a manager feels like such a big deal. But now I feel like you're taking it to the nth level here.
This is different.
To the power of 10 by saying you're going to manage all of this and still have the heart and the drive. Like, wow, that freaks me out.
I'm kind of terrified because I said to him, his name is Dana, and I said, Dana, where in the hell am I going to find this unicorn that I can literally... because as much as I'm not hands-on in the operation, I'm super hands-on in everything else behind the scenes, because we've been, in 7 years, we've had basically 5 locations, right? Now, we're not growing locations per se, although I am adding like a recovery studio. My focus has been on that type of growth, but not individual location P&L management as much as it could be. So that's like a unicorn right? Like,
Well,
I don't know where I'm going to find this person.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I don't know how many people listening are looking.
Yeah.
It feels like this is more of a hiring podcast than it would be for people who are looking to hire. Because I don't know how many people have multiple locations looking for a GM. But it seems like it could be a great opportunity, Gloria, of somebody who really wants to break down the numbers and find what's going to be most profitable and work the best for your business. Like,
yeah,
where you're focused on so many things, like, no insult, you are amazing at everything that you do, but somebody who that's all that they're focused on could be wonderful.
Yes, and I realize my limitations, right? So I don't think that I can personally grow just because of my limited bandwidth, right? So what I feel like I'm good at is working through other people, but I have to find that person who's a leader, somebody who can inspire the team and, just be there for them versus this, one manager at a time. And they'll still exist, obviously, right? But this is somebody who will lead the team to a different level. And I really don't want to find somebody in the float industry per se, because I want to find somebody who's more like, the priority is finding somebody who's leading.
She shut me down already.
I mean, you see what I'm saying, though. I mean, it's a special kind of person that has that leadership of multiple units.
You need somebody
right?
with experience,
yes,
from another industry to come into this space. Yeah,
yes,
and that's how we felt
exactly.
with our manager. I mean, obviously not such a big scale as you, but we similarly just needed somebody with that kind of experience of management.
Yeah,
stepping
yeah.
in that an employee wouldn't have.
Yeah.
It would be too much to step into. I think similarly at different tiers again of responsibility, but it would just be too much to step into.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
Wow,
a little crazy.
That's big time. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like timely right now because I did lose this particular manager. I think I was thinking this was like a year away, but after my call last week with my consultant, he's like, yeah, you better start thinking about that right now. So that just added a whole level of stress, and it's interesting. So
do you know what are your first steps going to be to replace your exiting manager? So not GM, but
yeah. So I do have somebody that is already working at that location who has great experience, and so he is going to step into the role. He was already kind of working as an assistant to Gabrielle,
cool.
So
nice.
Yeah, so that's going to be good. I'm not as concerned about that, but now we have to kind of backfill one additional person, one or two. So it's kind of good. It's a little bit slower in Chicago right now. I'm sure, people are experiencing with the hot weather. It's a little bit slower.
The
so
schedule?
Yeah. So it's a good time to have a hole if you're going to have a hole.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, and that wraps up that episode. that's what we got. I'm trying to think of just other things to think about when hiring a manager, and I think, I guess I don't want to be too redundant here, but the knowing yourself part I think is really important. Of who you put in that place isn't. I think when you open your business is just an reflection of who you are. Like it's very difficult to create a brand different than your own personality style, but at the point that you're bringing a manager in, I think you can pivot a little bit and have them be a little bit of a change to your brand and grow what your brand means, which I think was true in our case. Gloria, you're talking about needing a manager essentially right out of the gate. You're a different beast than the rest of us. You go, Ms. Go. And I guess Sandra and I are the Drews, and the smaller business people have to at a certain time decide when that pivot is. And let me tell you, I think it's the same as hiring an employee for your first time or hiring a manager for the first time. It never feels like you're making enough money to make that switch over. For whatever reason, it's just you're never swimming in the cash. Just like, yes, Because when do you feel like you ever have enough cash? In your own home, it doesn't matter how much you're making. There's always budgeting that's going on in your mind, and you never feel flush with cash. So I would say somewhat similar to the employee portion where I would say, they say be slow to hire, quick to fire, which I completely agree with. I think you should be quick to start hiring an employee, be quick to start giving yourself space. And similarly with a manager, when you start thinking about that and when you start thinking about, I wish I could have my time doing this, it's time to start looking at your account information and see if you can pay a manager to do that. Or find somebody who's, just willing to take on those tasks and divvying that up. Because
and
you're going to get more done.
Do you have that manager role also incremental to the employee on duty, or does it just depend on the day? Like, does the manager actually work shifts as well? Because at Float 60, that's the case, right? Like,
yes.
I don't have the bandwidth, financial bandwidth to hire an incremental oversight. So
that would be so nice, right? To just, even if she was just on site to be of assistance, But yeah, so our manager works shifts as well. What I would love is more time away from shifts, just to payroll, that kind of thing. Like not be on shift doing payroll. Sandra's currently doing payroll, so it's not like she actually is multitasking that. But sorry, I have this cough. So sorry. Shoot, I lost my train of thought there.
You said Sandra was doing the payroll and the manager, is not taking on some of the admin roles.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily what I'm getting at. I think just like the amount of hours that we're giving them is what it is. Like you said, like the financials are what they are, and every business owner has to decide, whether it's worth it or not, and we've decided it's not. And then we have secondary manager, senior employees that have been there long enough that they just know things inside and out. They don't have the same responsibilities. They're not scheduling. They're not doing some of the, the ordering and all the business emails, that kind of thing. But they are go-to people. If there are any issues, you can go to them. And they do, tend to take on more responsibilities as well.
And when they are kind of named as the manager, are they also like the ambassador of the location? Do they go to, I don't know if you guys are involved in like Chamber of Commerce events, or if you go to different events, are they also doing those things? Because I've been kind of struggling with that. Like, should this person be more outside of the studio or balancing both so they can also be representing, in my case, Float 60 at community events and, chamber events and things like that? I think that is a really important job, but I personally can't be doing it, right? So I'm just curious to see if you guys are doing that yourself, or do you empower the managers to do that too?
For us, we generally take that on. We don't do it enough, by all means, but yeah, when that usually gets funneled up to us to have those conversations, or working out deals between businesses, that kind of thing, that comes to us. Is that a great idea? Yeah, absolutely. Would it be super cool? Like, we do the math on pay versus income coming in with floats. So then if we're sending somebody out, that there's no income component to that necessarily, no direct one-to-one. And that's when I think things get more difficult for us to make a financial choice like that. And then, we, with our family, have reeled back quite a bit with those kind of ventures. So that kind of stuff isn't happening a lot. For better or worse. For worse.
It's hard to know what that payoff would be to have
exactly.
them involved in those things and have that time there, right?
Yeah.
Pre-pandemic, I really was bummed because I didn't have staff and I was unable to go to I got called all the time from HR departments of companies saying, oh, we're having this day. We're trying to get people in and have a booth and the employees are going to come walk around. And I turned all of them down. I've never done one because I was always at the shop. Oh. And now I don't hear those things anymore, and there's less people in offices, and so there are less of these corporate events. And I do feel a little bummed that I missed that opportunity. But hopefully that comes back. And how much opportunity is there? I guess that was going to be my question. Out here, there's not a lot of stuff going on as far as events go. I know the chamber does try to do some things, but there's really not a lot of gatherings still, right?
Yeah, see, it feels like it's totally back here. Like just even in Chicago today, it feels busy, and I just feel like there was this time where the gates opened and now everybody's crazy getting out there doing all these events, almost to the fact it's just too much. But you bring up a really good point, because we used to get invited to a lot of corporate wellness events, and you're right. Like now that you mention it, it's definitely not the same, because people are in this hybrid office mode, right? Where they're not in the office all the time. So yeah, I was just curious about that, because that's something, we used to have this community outreach person that she wasn't a manager, but she was kind of like the ambassador, because there were so many events here in Chicago that you could do that full time. That's not the case anymore. But and then I'm also curious about when we talk about a manager. I mean, do you have them looking at your P&L? Like, what level of transparency do you have for your managers? Are they plugged into the numbers? Are they doing? You said Sandra's doing the payroll for you, Dylan, but are they accountable for the performance of the location? Because that's kind of the next level that we're moving to, right?
Wow.
It's so much
that'd
trust.
be big time. Yeah.
It's scary.
Gosh. Yeah. That's scary. It makes me think about motivation of an employee. Like same thing with commissions, and part of me is like, well, that's our motive. I mean, we have that motivation and we balance it. Like, why couldn't somebody else have that motivation and balance it? Yeah, that's a crazy one. And like we were saying, Sandra's doing payroll. Everybody hires a manager. It doesn't mean one specific thing. I don't think manager, it's a very generalized term, right? So managing the business doesn't have to mean everything. It doesn't, that's very variable. And I think that's an important thing when you're doing your hiring, is clarity on what it is you're hoping to, I guess, take off your plate. I don't know if that's a good way to say it, but putting them in charge of.
And it's definitely not taking it off your plate, because as the owner, you're always responsible for that, right? But, for me, I'm shifting. This is a big moment of shift for me, because, let's say if I have what will be 5 locations again, if we pay, let's just throw a number out there, $20,000. For each location. That might be $100,000 base salary, but maybe they have a variable comp for each location. So maybe out of each of the locations, they have, goals to meet from a margin perspective. And if they meet those goals, maybe it's, 5 to 10%, from each
Gloria,
location.
I'm telling you, I'm good. I'm a great employee. I think I really work at this position.
The problem is you need to be here. You need to be here. That's why I'm hiring for this in the first place, because I can't be at all the locations. So I need somebody who steps in and becomes the face of, the employees, the team needs support, right? And so that's what I can't give them anymore. I've done it
with all the people working from home, all this remote work, these brick and mortars, we are in a completely different environment. Like you need somebody physically there. And to be that cheerleader too. That's going to cheer your
so that's kind of the model that I'm exploring. But I'm just curious if anybody else does that, because it is very strange to give transparency to all the expenses and the insurance and the payroll to somebody from a holistic level.
Just hashtag or at Art of the Float, hashtag P&L, and we'll know you're tweeting about. We don't check on Twitter. I don't know. Well, if you do, I'll probably get a notification. That'd be hilarious. But yeah, let us know. I'd be curious, and we'll just have you on as a guest. I'd love to get that information and put it out there. That'd be a really fascinating topic. We're a little tight on time tonight, so we're going to have to wrap this one up. But is there anything else you want to share? Or Drew, do you have any other questions for Ms. Gloria before we wrap up?
not a question, but a statement that I think, just as far as business goes, I think an important thing I heard tonight was that it's important to realize and be honest with yourself about your strengths and weaknesses and where you're at in your business journey. And I hear 3 different people at 3 different stages here tonight speaking, and it's a learning process. And we all jumped into the business world, feet first in the deep end and had to figure a lot of stuff out. And that's just part of the deal, right? You learn as you do, and we're all kind of making our way in different ways. And that's it. That's a hard part, to be honest. Like, what are you good at? What are you not good at? And knowing, to hear you, Gloria, say, I can't give them what they need. That's a very honest and a very, I think, a very important thing to understand, because if you're not honest about that and you think you're giving them what you need, then your employees are going to start saying, well, she's not giving us what we need, we're going someplace else.
Yeah.
And you think everything's fine. But if you're not fooling yourself and you're being honest about that, then I think that's an important step in growth, right? So to anyone listening out there, that's something to really reflect on and be honest with yourself about what you're good at.
And I think the key word is growth. Are you at the point where you are at the optimal, top end of what you can do? I don't think we are, right? So that's where I step back and recognize that having somebody else leading outside of me, because I don't. I'm I have a full-time job. I have other business ventures. I feel like there's somebody better than me that I could partner with and align, and I could lead them to execute on my vision, but have them really be the ones working the day-to-day of making sure people on the team know those are objectives, and just getting us to the point where we could be a lot better. So, good point. It's heavy stuff.
I got very reflective at the end here. Yeah, Drew, that was great. That reflected right back at me. Some introspection I need to do. Thank you.
Well, I miss you guys.
Yeah, where are you? You're recording from a hotel room tonight. Where are you at?
Strangely enough, I'm in Chicago in a hotel. Only because...
you were saying that you were eating in Chicago. Yeah.
It's only because I have to be at work super early, so I'm literally across the street from my office, and I couldn't go home and make it back in time without being stressed, because I have to work on a bunch of stuff tonight. So, so it's unusual, right? I used to have a place here in the city, but I don't anymore, so... Other than float, I could have slept in a float tank tonight, but I decided not to.
But
I miss you.
Never actually turns out. We miss you, Gloria. It's so good to have you back.
Thank you,
we had you
guys.
last week too, but it's just so good to see you.
It is.
Drew, any final thoughts?
We miss Kim tonight also.
I know. We missed Kim. I forgot
to Kim.
To say. Kim's not going to make it tonight. I always like to announce that at the end. Thank you, guys. What can I say? I say it every week, but I mean it every week. I love seeing you guys and talking shop with you guys, and the insights I get from you is beautiful, and I really appreciate it. Thank you, too.
Thank you, Dylan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A little love here. Thanks to you guys for putting us in your earbuds and hearing what we have to say, and hopefully we help your business a little bit. Thanks to everybody supporting us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Art of the Float. And thanks to everybody who's supporting us on shop.artofthefloat.com is where you want to go to get previous materials that have been released, photography, video, testimonial videos, all that stuff. Chickadee, check it out. Oh, and like t-shirts, mugs, all that good stuff. Oh my gosh, those t-shirts are flying off the shelf. There is some really fun stuff in there. Especially, I would just say the Flux stuff is really cool. Chickadee, check it out. Also, big shout out to Helmbot. Thank you so much, Helmbot, for supporting the show. We love Helmbot. We all use Helmbot here, and we're big fans. We genuinely mean it when we say use them, and if nothing else, just get the tour and see if they're a good fit for you. Gosh, I think that's it.
Float conference?
Yeah.
Float conference.
What's that?
Register for the Float conference, Portland, Maine.
Is that this year? Okay.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
Okay.
Make sure.
Okay. Yeah, we're all 3 of us are going to be there, right?
Yes, I can't wait.
Kim's going to be there.
Hopefully.
She better be.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah, I finally booked my plane tickets. I'm
You're in
going.
officially.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome.
Yep.
And you're in for sure, Drew?
I'm in.
Yes.
In.
Something could always come up, but I'm in.
Let's make sure we plan for a group picture. I know how difficult it was the last time.
I don't know
make
why
sure.
it was so difficult. I can't put my finger on it.
Make sure the hair is good. Dylan, don't shave till then.
Don't shave?
Yeah, get a big fluffy beard going.
You want that big, but you like that beard. Okay, yeah.
I like got it.
Great. Gosh, I think there was something else. Oh, thanks to Olga for producing the show. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate you. Yeah. And until next time, as always, remember, know thyself. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Bye.